What's up YouTube, Jay Traveling here, and today I'm going to talk about my crypto mining basement, how hot it has been getting. Now, I'm not even into the summer months yet. We're still technically in spring. The temperatures outside climbed a little bit the other day and it hit into the mid 80s around the Philadelphia area and pretty much did a number on my mining area. Now, the temperatures inside my mining area reached just over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I do have 11 rigs in my basement, spread out a tiny bit. They're not really on top of each other. And two of them are inside the grow tent. The reason I don't have a third one in there is because I didn't have one to put in there. I could squeeze in my temporary rig, but then it's harder for me to swap cards on and off of it. But since I will have some more GPUs to put on it and I can get some onto it, maybe I will put that inside that and move my one rig that is by my window onto my rack once I get those GPUs, which should be in the next few days. But pretty much 100 degrees outside my tent, about 102 inside the tent, as you can see on the thermometers inside my app here. And then my network switch for my one rig in case it does go down. And ever since I installed that Wi-Fi switch, I have not had an issue with that rig. I'm gonna knock on wood here because I don't want to have issues. I'd rather not, but I haven't had one since I put that on there and have not had to manually reboot it. But let's go inside the computer and I'll show you my biggest problem rig right now. And you can see here's my For the Win rig. Now, it's not been an issue. The miner time has been up for over 4 days, so I did thought I had a problem card with this one, but I ended up not having it. It was, I think, the lane that it was on the motherboard I was having a stability issue with. I switched the lane that it was on to a different one, and since I haven't had an issue, and that was obviously almost 5 days ago, now you can see these memory temperatures. Now, if we look at my TUF Nuts rig, I finally got this updated. That one's 102 on the memory also. It has not throttled at all, this one, but it's obviously a little hot. But my For the Win rig with these 3090s, the other day when it was 100 degrees in my basement, these hit 110 degrees Celsius on the memory. This one didn't. I need to figure out which one this is, but I'll do a GPU fan find and figure out this is my best performing one. I don't know if this was a B stock card or I bought this one brand new, because one of them on this, two of them on this rig maybe are B stock cards, and then this one's a B stock card. And then these, I believe, are brand new. So I'm going to look to see which one. I know which one this one is. So I could just take a 50-50 shot and temp the back plates with an infrared thermometer and pretty much get a good idea which one's which without doing a GPU fan find, because it should have a significant temperature difference on the back plate, I would think, with the memory temps. But these were throttling. These two were down to 117 mega hash. Obviously I don't want them throttling. I don't even like seeing these up so high. I would love to see them all down at like 90 to 94. That's like what my 5700 XTs would run in the 90s memory temperature, and ran pretty solid. As you can see here, this is overnight, or yesterday, not overnight, where you can see the mega hash dropping where it was throttling, and then the room cooled down overnight. You can see a pretty consistent 595 mega hash. But this was dropping down to 581, 500. It was in the 70s at one point, I think. Back here, I thought I saw it drop down to 570, 577.6. So I was throttling pretty hard at that point. This is always going to be the pool side. That's always going to be a little over the place. But my reported hash rate should stay pretty steady on Ethereum. Now, it is up to date the most, and I did update the driver for NVIDIA, so we're at 510. My TUF Nuts rig isn't, but it's still showing a memory temperature, so I'm going to leave it for now because this has been pretty stable. I don't want to mess with this rig, so I'm not going to mess with updating the graphics driver. But what am I doing to combat all of this heat? So I'm looking at repadding or doing copper plates on all of these. I'm also looking at it for the TUF Nuts rig. Now, I don't know if I want to do pads or plates. I've heard good things about using the copper plates, even though there's a little bit more risk, because if it does come in contact with anything, you can short this whole card out and pretty much be useless. And the pads is a little safer. You just have to be careful because I did have a buddy bring over a 3090 Zotac hollow block that he got in a trade, and somebody replaced the pads and tightened the screws too much and crushed the memory. They probably used an electronic screw because they are spring loaded when you're screwing it back in that back plate. So when he screwed the heatsink back on, I think he crushed the memory that way. He had to send it out to a shop, and there were ones that told him that the memory was crushed, and that's why we couldn't get it to start mining or show video. So thermal pads are one thing, or the copper plates. And another thing I did is I went online, I ordered this exhaust fan. Now, this is going to go into my window, and then I have one 8-inch hat that will fit an 8-inch inline duct from my grow tent, so I might swap that over to hard piping. Now my buddy over at Code Red Mining switched over to hard piping in his grow tent, and he's been having some pretty good success with it. He's pretty much inspired me to swap out of the flex pipe because it does radiate heat, and I didn't know this until he explained it to me. That's radiating heat into my room, and also not as efficient with all the kinks in it as far as flowing the air out. So he's pretty much talked me into swapping over to hard piping, which I plan on doing a second tent also to get more rigs into it. So if I have both of those with 8-inch exhaust fans piped out a window, plus this exhaust fan in my window. Now, I got a 16-inch because I measured out my window and I figured I could fit it. I do a 20-inch box fan in there right now. Now, 3060 CFM, I probably won't need all 3000 CFM all the time. So I may upgrade eventually to this little controller here where I can like monitor it remotely. I have it plugged into this thing so I can set some schedule. So if my room reaches a certain temperature, it'll slow the fan down, or vice versa. If I can look at it remotely and be like, oh crap, my room is 90 degrees. I need to speed my fan up. And one thing my buddy at Code Red said, with that powerful of a fan, I need to be careful because it's going to be pulling out so much air. It might start pulling the air conditioning from my first floor out through my basement out that window. So I need to be careful of that. So I'll probably end up shutting the basement door and putting something under it to block the airflow, and then opening some windows up in my basement so that when it's pulling air, it's pulling fresh air from outside and then out that window across where my mining rigs are. That's the plan, at least for the airflow. So hopefully that is going to help. And then once I get my second tent, which I'll order once I get my Octominers in, I plan on having my Octominers in it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to have them hanging outside of the tent and then use the tent as pretty much like a hot side. So I'll have like a cold side, which is my basement. I'll put some like fan grills or something on the Octominers to help prevent some dust, and then have the hot side inside the tent with the exhaust fan where it's just blowing all that hot air into there and then exhausting it out the top of the tent and then out through the window. I will have to do some custom building for this window to get two hats on it and also my exhaust fan. So a little bit of custom work, and I'll show you guys that in the process once I get this all. Like I said, this fan should be here in the next day or so, and I'm pretty pumped up about it. I know I just have this controller right here, but that's the controller that I use currently with my 8-inch inline fan, and it works pretty well. And I pretty much set that to max and I've yet to touch it. Even in the wintertime when it's a little bit cooler in my basement, I still don't touch it much because I want that hot air out as fast as I can in that tent. So once I do this, I'm gonna get these repadded. Let's do a refresh. I think that's a little hotter. Nope. Once I get these repadded or copper plates, hopefully I can get these down in the low 90s to high 80s temperature wise, even in the hot summer months. But you know, that's my plan right now currently as far as battling this heat. Like I said, we're not even into the summer months, and I have all of my GPUs pretty much screaming at just over 100 Celsius on the VRAM, except for one. Even my 3080 TUF is 100 degrees Celsius. And right now, currently, it's probably in the mid to high 80s in that room. So it's not even into those summer months yet, and I'm already battling this heat. You know, I'd like to hear what you guys are doing if you're battling heat already, or if, you know, your mining rigs are pretty much cool. I know some people tell me, oh, put an air conditioner in there, but I try to explain that I will just break that air conditioner because it will not be able to keep up with the amount of heat that is being produced. That passive cooling and getting the exhaust fan in, it seems to be my best option currently. But, you know, I'd like to see if anyone else has any experience with these AC Infinity exhaust fans and windows, what their experience is, or how they combat the heat and get their mining rig areas and rooms as cool as possible, as fast as possible. But thanks for checking this video out. Make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below. See you next time.